Hi there, good noon and welcome to a class on a very important topic which is called Para Jumbles. So you know it, I know it, Para Jumbles are a very regular fixture in the CAT exam. In case you are not aware of it, then let me take you through that in this particular session. But before that, here is something for you to think over. So I believe if there are two things that you need to excel, then my number one thing will be self-belief and number two will be perseverance. You can call it consistency, you can call it tenacity, because I've seen over the years that there are days when you prepare and things get challenging, or there are times when people are not able to show up for work every day, and that is when the problems arise. As long as you can show up every day, as long as you can keep putting in that effort every day, I am very sure, very confident that you'd be able to do the job or get the job done. So with that, let's dive into Para Jumbles. So what are Para Jumbles? In case you are new to the world of the CAT, and you haven't really been, or you haven't gone through the past year papers, etc., then you'd know Para Jumbles refers to a very particular question type which is more or less a fixed part of the CAT exam. There have been very few years, I think the only year that I am able to recall is CAT 2006, when we did not have any Para Jumble question, but otherwise every year we get a lot of Para Jumble questions. So this is what it basically means. So Para Jumbles is a jumbled paragraph in this particular question type. The examiner gives us a paragraph whose sentences are jumbled. We need to rediscover that sequence which will be most appropriate for that set of sentences. And for the last few years, we are in the CAT, we're getting 4 sentence Para Jumbles, which basically means that they give us 4 sentences and we need to arrange them in the most logical, most plausible manner. And once again, in the CAT, these questions for the last few years have been non-MCQs. Okay, so you know that in the CAT exam you get a lot of multiple choice questions, but then you also have a few non-multiple choice questions. So this belongs to that non-multiple choice question category, and that adds to the challenge, that adds to the difficulty level a bit. Although the other side of the coin is that because it is a non-MCQ, there is no negative marking, and therefore it is de facto a question type that all of us definitely want to go ahead and attempt. Okay, so how do we go ahead and solve these questions? So what should the approach be? So over the years, I have seen 2 distinct approaches that are used by various individuals. The first approach is an intuitive approach, that gut feel approach, where you look at a paragraph and you kind of get this sense of this should be the best sequence. And then there is this other approach that I call the scientific approach, where whichever option that you've picked up or whichever way you have arranged those sentences, you have a very concrete, a very solid reason behind that particular arrangement. So I have nothing against intuition. However, I'm not very fond of the intuitive approach for Para Jumbles in our B school exams, and the reason is that if you the intuitive in order for the intuitive approach to work, you need to be somebody who is a very well-read individual, right? So it requires extensive reading. At the same time, it also requires calmness at your part. Okay, so if you are under a pressure situation, then things can become a little different, and most of our exams are pressure situations. So normally, imagine you're using that intuitive approach while solving Para Jumbles at home. So you'd look at a set of sentences and you'd say, okay, I think that 3, 4, 2, 1 appears to be the best sequence. So you know, you have the tiny little voice inside of you. It'll tell you, hey, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1. So you'd listen to that voice and you're like, okay, That sounds all right. So let's use 3, 4, 2, 1. But if you get that same question in the examination and the tiny little voice will still tell you, hey, it should be 3, 4, 2, 1. This time around, you are unlikely to accept it. This time around, you'll ask that tiny voice, hey, why? Why do you think it should be 3, 4, 2, 1? But that's the voice of your gut feel. It's not a voice of reason. And therefore, it won't have that answer. And so, and apart from that, even otherwise, even when you use intuition at home, you would realize that this approach is inconsistent. It does not always lead to the right answer. And in case you get that answer wrong, unfortunately, you won't even be able to learn much from it. You won't even know which mistake to fix, so to say. And that is why I'm against intuitive approach. I am, on the other hand, all in for a reasoning-based, rational, scientific approach. So, hi Chinmay, oh sorry, I just looked at the message right about now. So, what exactly is this scientific approach? In this approach, what do? Now, imagine you have this particular question given to you. This is typically the kind of question that you can expect in the reasoning section or reasoning segment of various exams. So, you have 7 friends. They're standing in a north facing row from position 1st to 7th, left to right. They belong to the same family. They like different colors, but not necessarily in the same order. And then there are these clues given, right? So this is what you would call an arrangement question. This is more or less an arrangement question, right? So what do? You look at each one of these clues, you look at it logically, and then you go ahead and arrange them in this order, right? So the kind of thought process that you use for these questions is the thought process that you need for para jumbles. In other words, think of it as reasoning, think of it as a puzzle, think of it as a seating arrangement question. The only difference is that unlike the reasoning questions where the clues are explicitly given to us, in para jumbles, we are the ones who are supposed to go ahead and discover those clues. Find out those clues that are scattered among the sentences that are handed over to you. Hare Krishna. How are you doing? So what kind of clues? So I told you there are clues, right? So what kind of clues and how to discover those? Well, here you go. First up, read the entire paragraph, or in this particular case, all the sentences that are given to us in the para jumble question. And when you read these sentences, stay focused, stay sharp. Read them actively so that you are able to identify the various clues that are scattered around. So there are some clues that come in the form of words, there are some clues that come in the form of ideas that are presented by those sentences. Then there are times when even grammar can act as a clue. So we use all of those things, right? So we identify those clues, and thereafter we use those clues to figure out some kind of sequence among those sentences. You know, you're able to at times figure out that, hey, 1 should come after 4 and here is the reason. Or there are times when you are also able to form a mandatory pair where you say that, hey, I know that 3 and 4 must come together. Right? So these things. So a compilation of the clues and the consequent sequences / mandatory pairs would almost invariably lead to the right answer. So for example, have a look at this particular question. So here are these 3 sentences. So if let's read these together, okay? So in many of these trials, judges were called from all over the world to give their verdict. Now, when I read this sentence, I notice this. These trials. Which trials? It's a pronoun. It must refer to some noun. So that's a clue for me. Okay, then after the war ended, there were military trials held in Germany. So one major clue, the war. Which war are we talking about? So you normally use the to when the noun is known to you. So is there something specific that, is there a war that is mentioned here? Then I know that the sentence should come after it. But then you notice this military trials. So this itself, so if I were to label them as 1, 2 and 3, this itself is sufficient for me to tell you that 1 should come after 2, isn't it? Let's look at the next one. But many of them completely ignore the consequences that their actions might have on people. So you notice this starts with but. Now but is used to contrast, contradict. Then you have this pronoun, them. So I think the most suitable place for this should be to put it immediately after 1. So if we were to arrange them, can I say that it is going to be 2, 1, 3? So these are the kind of things that we look at. Or have a look at one more set of sentences. Now, if you read these sentences, you'd see some kind of logic, idea-driven logic emerging. Can you tell me what that is? So this deals with some sort of notice series of events. So you'd obviously appear for the exam first. It's only then the results are announced after. It's only when the results are announced that you get to know that he scored the 4th rank. So these kind of things are definitely going to be useful. Gunjan, absolutely. Maharashtra CET also gives you para jumbles. So in case that is not a strong suit of yours, be my guest, yeah, why not? So I keep on conducting or keep on taking a lot of sessions. Some of those are dedicated to Maharashtra CET, some of them are, so for example, this is primarily oriented towards our CAT 24 students, but tomorrow at 12, I will bring another Maharashtra CET session for you. Okay, so we'd have that, and then if you want to practice a bit of RC, you can join me at 6. So those kind of things. But yes, because Maharashtra CET does have para jumbles, I'm sure you'd find this session useful. So now that I've taken you through the basics, let me put you through the paces and test you. Here is your first question on the screen. Please go through these 4 sentences and tell me the best order for these 4 sentences. Put that in the chat window and then we can go ahead and talk about it. Give it a shot. I hope you're thinking it through. What's your answer? should I highlight some of these clues? So you notice this also tells you that 1 needs to be kept right next to 1, and these are in addition to an earlier round. So 2 and 1 are talking about this round, third is an earlier round. So because it says these are in addition to an earlier round, 3 should come after, and 4 basically gives you the topic of this paragraph, that a lot of Indian entrepreneurs are moving out. So therefore, Chinmay, that's absolutely correct. It should be 4, 2, 1 and 3. So Hare Krishna, yeah, BA is absolutely all right, but and putting C after that is also fine. But then if you look at 2, 1 and 3, the idea mentioned in 4 is already clear to you. So if you want to put 4 afterwards, you can do that, but then you need to phrase it as a conclusion or a reiteration. But fourth does not phrase it as a conclusion or a reiteration, and therefore we will rule it out. Gunjan, tomorrow I'd be taking that session at 12. Okay, here is the next one. So let's try this one. Okay. So there was a slight, it was slightly tricky, but let's check. So to begin with, first says the cycle, however long, eventually turns, and look at fourth, and turned it has in India. The cycle eventually turned and turned it has in India. So this and needed a continuation, so a similar idea before, and that is given to you in first. So you need to have 1 and 4 coming in together. So that's point number 1. Now the other issue is, if you look at 2 and 3, 2 says the startup ecosystem, which has been in overdrive for the past few years, propelled by a combination of factors but largely by the era of cheap money, is now showing signs of weakness. And with this turn comes the realization that many of the assumptions that underpin the stratospheric valuations were unhinged from reality. So considering that fourth is talking about India and 2 and 3 extended, 2 has to come after it. Because they're talking about a turning of startups. And this has to be in the context of India, and because 2 does not mention India, because 2 does not mention India, it must come after 1 and 4. Where do we put in 3? So now the question is, should I go in for 1, 4, 2, 3, or should I go in for 1, 4, 3, 2? Which one of these two will be more appropriate? So the key here was, I think one very important segment here was this, that fourth is the one which is introducing India, and 2 and 3 are talking about that shift or that change. So if you put 2 before 1 and 4, You've already said what you wanted to say. Then 1 and 4 will be redundant. So 1 and 4 definitely before 2. So now the question is 2, 3 or 3, 2? Think 3 because it gets into a more specific detail should ideally or is better suited to come after 2, and therefore the best answer for this question is going to be 1, 4, 2 and 3. It looked easy, looked suspiciously easy, but it is actually a fairly challenging question. So I am going to intersperse these for you. Okay, here is the next one. Give this a shot. Unlike the previous one, this is a fairly easy question, and I'll call it easy because it has plenty of clues. It does not necessarily mean that you will get it right, but you notice this has led to an increase in the frequency of very severe cyclones along the western coast. Where does it go? So there are two possibilities. 4 can come after 3, or in fact, let me make it even clearer. It has to be put immediately after 3, or it has to be put immediately after 4, after 2. You have to have one of these two. But then when you look at first, and as the water heats up, then marine heat waves are mentioned in 2 and requires a similar idea before. So you need to have 2 plus 1 together, otherwise you'd not be able to justify this and because you have 2 plus 1, 2 plus 4 is not possible. So that basically leaves you with two mandatory pairs, 3 plus 4 and 2 plus 1. Now of the two, which one of the pairs should come before? We're talking about Indian Ocean, right? So 3 has to be before the rest of the sentences, because if you look at second, it talks about this region. Which region? This equatorial region. So you know that 2 should definitely come after 3, and therefore 3, 4, 2, 1 is going to be your best option. Arey Baba. Look at this, man. Look at this. This region versus the equatorial region. Has to be 3 before 2. So whenever we get it wrong, there are some clues that we probably missed out on, and it is that which we need to essentially work on. Here is the next question. Keep trying, guys. Let's keep giving the shot. Here it is. Shall we look at this together now? Arey, fabulous, Chinmay. Absolutely, yes. So, this time around we're using clues, right? Here in 2019, where Elzonte. The idea, when you say the idea behind what? That is given in 1. So, Adi, the key here was finding 1 plus 4. Otherwise, 2314 and 2341. That's probably, these are the only two possibilities that you would have arrived at. But here the right answer is 2314. So that's absolutely spot on. And with that, let me take you over to the next question now. Question number 5. This can challenge you, so attempt it with due care. Hare Krishna, that was quick. But was that also correct? So, you notice when I solve these questions, my intuition at times tells me about the opening sentence. Frankly, there is no reasoning based method to figure out the opening. But your intuition would generally kick in. But in this particular question, none of them really jumped out at me as an opening. So what did I do? I thought that, okay, let's just start sequencing. So when I started sequencing, I realized that 4 and 1 go together. Look at 4th. More than a half century later, any kind of faith in the future, which is to say any faith in history, is hard to come by. And first, what does first talk about? Between catastrophic climate change, the resurgence of authoritarian and racist populism, the ever-growing inequities generated by contemporary capitalism, and a seemingly endless pandemic. So we're saying the past has brought us at this situation, so you won't trust it. So it in a way gives you that reason for that lack of faith in history. So very subtle, very demanding, very challenging, but that connection does exist here. Then if I look at 1 and 3, when you look at in this new and despairing state of affairs at the beginning of 3rd, it refers to the list of reason given in 1. In this new and despairing state of affairs, so all that despair is given in 1. So 1 and 3 were also connected. And then finally I thought that 3 and 2 also go together. And the reason is 3 talks about people judging the past harshly, and sentence 2 attributes this to the misdeeds of people in the past, their lack of enlightenment. So if I were to arrange these, I will go ahead and put these together as 4, 1, 3, 2. This is a question that we will definitely label difficult. Difficult on two counts. Number one, it is lengthy. Number two, all the clues are idea based. You need to read it, you need to understand what is being said, and then you need to connect it with the idea of some other sentence. So these are the kind of questions that I would usually put people through in my advanced sessions, advanced workshops. It's a little harsh on you today, but I wanted to give you a taste of what you can expect. But here is a palate cleanser for you. After 5th, I'm sure you would find this soothing. Okay, so pretty straightforward, unlike the last one. So absolutely yes, it should be as you've stated, Chinmay, 2, 1, 4, and 3. So that's correct. Here is the next and the last question that we will look at today. Absolutely yes, Akraprabha. We are launching our Maharashtra CET specific batch, and this batch will essentially, there are plenty of features. In fact, join me at 12 tomorrow. I'll also be able to give you the details of the course. There are more than 55 live sessions, then there are close to 50 odd recordings of the live sessions that we took for SNAP and NMAT, which are relevant for Maharashtra CET. Some 230 recorded foundation lectures, 12 mocks, 3,500, more than 3,500 practice questions. So we have you covered there. So in this one, I would say that when you read them, you could have this confusion of 1-3 or 3-1. But when you read it further, you'd realize that you definitely need 3-4. Right? So that helps you eliminate 3-1, and you'd put 1 at the beginning. So 1, 3, 2, and 4 is going to be your right answer. So that's what I brought for you today. If you liked working with me, don't forget to like this video as well. You can also experience our course by unlocking your free trial and you'd through the trial you'd realize that ours is easily one of the most comprehensive programs that we have for CAT 2024. It has, and we've in the past, of course, we've gone on to produce stellar results. In case you want to know more about the program, just fill out that CAT counseling form. You'd find the link as a pinned comment above the chat, and you'd be able to sit down with one of us one-on-one, discuss whether this course is for you or not. Even if you want to prepare on your own, you can use that to seek some advice, some mentoring from us. So don't forget to fill out that CAT counseling form for a one-on-one customized discussion for your specific concerns. So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you once again tomorrow with more practice at 12. But tomorrow at 12, we'll be working on Maharashtra CET kind of questions. But even if you're a CAT aspirant, you will be writing all these exams subsequently, so it'll be useful for you. So I'll see you at 12. Until then, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Have a great day ahead, and let's meet again.